Hello listeners, this is HG Tudor and TTI Friday. Thank Tudor, it's Friday. Why will you be thanking my good self? Well, I'm going to take a waltz through the weird, interesting and insightful world of the comments section to my videos, where I'm going to answer a number of questions. Many of you thoughtfully pose questions to me. Some of them are similar in nature and pop up repeatedly. Others are detailed and appertain to your personal circumstances. Some are generic in nature, some are short, some are long. And as a consequence of the fact that I'm an army of one, albeit an effective one, I'm not able to answer as many questions as I would like to by typing answers for you. Therefore, I'm utilising the speed of speech to provide these answers to you. So, listen in, and you may hear your name mentioned, your question raised, and you'll receive the answer. And what better way than to start the weekend with receiving some answers to the situation you find yourself in, or answers to those head scratchers that are running through your racing mind, so that you are able to kick back, enjoy a cold one, and embrace the weekend, perhaps with a little more comfort, a little more satisfaction, but most of all, a hell of a lot of understanding. I would point out that where you ask long and detailed questions about your personal circumstances, the most appropriate way to address those is to organise a consultation with me. So if you take a walk across to Narcissist, that's NARCSITE.com, and go to the menu bar there, you'll find a range of options which show you the various consultations that I offer. Have a look in the testimonials as well, so you can assure yourself of the effectiveness of these consultations. The reason I don't go into great detail to answer personal circumstances where it is at length is basically time constraint, and also I pride myself on giving you full and accurate answers. And owing to the time constraint and often the need for more information about your circumstances, it's not possible for me to A, receive the information I need from you, from the comment section, and B, it's certainly not the case that I can convey to you with the level of accuracy and information that I would like to by providing an answer in the comment section. So, detailed circumstances, please do utilise the consultation services for those. So, with that introduction and those caveats aside, let's have a look in the comments section and see who's asking what. So, first up, we have Bravest Fucking Toaster, who's asking me, how have you learned the perspectives of lesser and mid-range narcissists if you are not one yourself? How would you know how their minds work? Fair enough question, and one that has been asked a few times. The answer to this Bravest Fucking Toaster is this. I am surrounded by my kind. They're in my family, I've worked with them, I do business with them, I have had lieutenants who are them, there are friends who are narcissists, people who I have met through my interesting and varied life. My mother is a narcissist, she's an upper mid-ranger for example, and therefore as a consequence of knowing myself inside out, observing the behaviours of these individuals, the interaction that I've had with the good doctors and their input also, studying, observing, and listening lesser and mid-range narcissists for many, many years, and also learning from the information that's provided by victims of such narcissists has enabled me to understand them and provide that insight also. Andrea asked me, why is it that you actually know you're a narcissist? I thought most narcissists are completely unaware of what they are. And you're right, the vast majority of narcissists, I would say around about 95%, are lesser and mid-range. That means they don't know what they are, can never know what they are, cannot be changed, cannot be healed. 5% of narcissists are greater. Why do I know that I'm a narcissist? It's a combination of my level of intelligence, the fact that I have developed with an awareness. And that awareness has been granted to me because I have the ability to manipulate to an extensive degree. You see, most narcissists don't know what they are. They can't be allowed to know what they are because if they did know, they wouldn't be effective. the self-defense mechanism would fail. Liken it to this. If you're performing some kind of martial arts and you're defending yourself and then attacking, if you have to keep thinking about each and every move, you will respond too slowly and you'll be beaten. So, the lesser and mid-range narcissists, if they had to actually think about the manipulations, if they had to sit down and think, this person has annoyed me, I need to take action against them, they A, lack the innate ability to do that through the thought process, but B, it would take them too long, and therefore their self-defense mechanism would fail. And as explained in the video, to control is to cope, narcissism and its creation, the problem that arises is that the narcissist would no longer survive or thrive. Greater narcissists, we are the ones that plan. Yes, we still operate with some instinct, but we plan. We do sit down and think about what we're going to do, how we're going to address things. That's why we are able to control our ignited fury more effectively. And therefore, we are, if you will, allowed to know what we are through the creation of what we've become. Our genetics are different, so that this awareness does not impact upon our effectiveness. Indeed, or rather, it does not impact upon our effectiveness in a negative way, but rather in a positive way. Our awareness makes us more effective. Why? Because we've got the innate ability to back it up. Lesser and mid-range narcissists don't have that. They have to do it by instinct. Husana Rumi asks, have you ever told the narcissist to get lost and never contact you again instead of blocking them? I appreciate that's not a question that's being posed necessarily to me, but to victims. However, I'm going to jump in and talk about that anyway. If you tell the narc to get lost, the difficulty you've got there is that what you're doing is you're providing challenge fuel. You see, when you have an interaction with the narcissist, there are just three types of interaction we'll have. The first is you provide us with pure fuel, pure positive fuel, for example, saying, I love you, or pure negative fuel, crying because we've hurt you. The second interaction that you may have is where you wound us. This is where there is an absence of emotion, and wounding invariably occurs where you fail to do something. So, you fail to acknowledge us, you forget our birthday, you don't call us, or you don't call us back, you don't reply to our messages. The third interaction is challenge fuel, and this is the one that people often do not know about. They think if they turn around and say to the narcissist that he's an arsehole and that he's a degenerate and he's a blight on the face of the earth, and the narcissist gets angry and responds in an angry fashion, they think, good, I've wounded him. No, you haven't. What's happened is, when you use those insults, the nature of them being insults means you're providing fuel. And invariably, if you're doing this in person, you will be saying this with a twisted, angry look on your face, maybe a frustrated one or an irritated one. There's also your body language, the tone of the words that you're using, and the look in your eyes. And all of that provides fuel. So, where you're providing fuel, it is impossible to wound us. Secondly, it's a challenge. You're issuing challenge fuel, because by insulting the narcissist, what you're actually doing is suggesting to the narcissist that he or she is not as good, not as superior as they think that he or she is. And we cannot allow that challenge to take place. We have to put it down. It's like a little rebellion on your part. And we have to come along and crush the insurrection. And the way that it's crushed is through the application of a manipulation. So, for example, that might be engaging in a word salad, might be punching you, might be slapping you, might be insulting you, arguing with you, slamming the phone down, walking off. There are various ways of asserting that supremacy again. So, if you tell the narcissist to get lost, never contact you again, the use of the words get lost are ones which are imbued with emotion. They show irritation and anger. So even if you sent that by text message, you'd be issuing challenge fuel, so you wouldn't wound them. And what would happen is you would invite immediately a response from the narcissist because you're challenging him or her. And I note that you've stated in this instance, Husanrana, that there is no blocking. So you can anticipate that you would get some kind of hoover by way of response, most likely a malign one, but it might be benign, as in some charm is thrown your way. Oh, why are you telling me to get lost? What's the matter, honeysuckle? Let's discuss this. Why don't I take you out for dinner, etc., etc. Or mid-ranger may come back with a pity play. Why are you being so horrible? Why are you telling me to get lost? Whinge whine, whinge whine. So, don't tell the narcissist to get lost and never contact you again. Why? One, you're tipping us off as to trying to get rid of the narcissist, which means you'll receive a preventative hoover. Read about that, or rather listen to it at the videos How No Contact Feels, parts 1 to 3, which deals in part with the issue of tipping off. Go no contact. You don't tell us what you're doing. You don't tell us to stay away. You're giving us what we want, fuel. And don't do it instead of blocking, because that's not no contact. You need to block and proceed in that fashion to ensure that we stay away from you. Can't we all just get along? Tells me, thank you, HG, your videos are tremendously helpful. I'm pleased that they are. And thank you for your kind comment. And as a consequence, do tell other people about it. Divine Time states, I'm getting stalked by a narcissist on behalf of my family. How far will they go to make their narcissist happy? Well, first of all, we don't do happy, but I understand your point. How far will they go to facilitate the needs of the narcissist? They will be unlikely to know that this individual is a narcissist, Divine Time. And what's happening here is that the individuals, there may well be a narcissist in your family who's utilising a narcissist as potentially a lieutenant. And consequently, I suspect that what you've got here is a narcissist pulling the strings of another narcissist, which does happen. And it's likely that neither know what they are, and they will both think that they're manipulating one another, or at least they will both think that they are gaining what they require from one another. So in these circumstances, it's not so much a case of how far will they go to make their narcissist happy, but rather we would need to examine precisely the dynamic. And I suspect that there's a narcissist lurking within your family, and I would advocate that you look at that and perhaps consult with me through a narc detector consultation so I can confirm that to you for the purposes of ensuring that you know who that person is and then how you are able to deal with it. Anita Joan comments, you're awesome. I hate you, but I thank you. It's quite all right. You don't have to like me. And as I say, love me, hate me, never ignore me. The whole purpose of this is that I disseminate this information to you. It is the best information, the most effective. If you hate me, go ahead. I really don't care. Ether Seeker asks HG, how would it affect one of your kind if your target was the one to initiate this spiritually connected train of thought? Would you feel challenged or threatened? What would your emotional response be in this instance? Well, if the victim says to us, for instance, oh, you're my soulmate, then we as the narcissist think, bingo, we will utilise this spirituality that exists in this victim to our benefit. The greater would recognise this and respond in a calculated fashion. A lesser or mid-ranger would not do it in a calculated fashion but would respond instinctively, the narcissism picking up on this trait and utilising it for the benefit of the narcissist and as against the victim. There would not be any challenge or threat in the victim initiating a spiritually connected train of thought, not at all, because it essentially demonstrates that you feel a deeper connection to the narcissist, thus evidencing that you're bound to the narcissist, and that's precisely what we want to happen. So as a consequence of that is something that we would want and relish. Dahlia Cohen asks, hello HG, another wonderful insightful video, thank you. Are there any questions you would recommend victims to ask their new loves, or is this flag solely enough for you to advise to make a run for it? Dahlia's asking this question pertaining to the Narc Alert Red Flag Flying #1 video. As I explained in the video, one red flag does not a narcissist make, and it's indicative rather than the determinative. So what you should do is when you spot a red flag, you should take notice of it. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to make a run for it, but if you do, fair enough. At least that way you know for certain you will have avoided a potential narcissist. But where there is one red flag, take a look around and see if there are others. And if there are, then you make your run for it. And if you're not certain, consult with me, and I'll put it beyond doubt. In terms of your question about are there questions that I would recommend victims to ask their new loves, I direct you to the 2 videos that I've recorded, which are 5 ways to expose the narcissist. There are 2 of those, so there are 10 questions in total that can be utilised where you can ask these questions of the narcissist at an early juncture in a relationship with them, so you can gauge the responses to determine whether red flags are flying there. So have a listen to those videos. They are very useful in that regard. Angie Lom asks, do graters feel uncomfortable when they are telling the truth? No, we don't. Of course, the question of what is truth is a matter of perspective, but where we are telling the truth which accords with your truth, we do not feel uncomfortable, because we're telling the truth for one reason. It suits our purposes also. As I've explained, what we do will always suit us. It's always to our ends. Hunt Simple has asked, based on your experience, what percentage of narcissists fall into each of the categories of greater, mid-range and lesser? Well, of course, there's no statistically reliable information in that regard because nobody's ever undertaken an extensive survey, and therefore my response is purely anecdotal, although noteworthy because it comes from my expert perspective as a consequence of years of observation and involvement in and around thousands of narcissists. I also utilise the experiences of those that write on my blog, that respond on YouTube, and those who've engaged through the Narc Detector consultation. In terms of percentage, 5% roughly are greater, 30% thereabouts will be lesser, which means that 65% are mid-range. And this is the interesting fact that there are far more narcissists than people realise, and that's because many of them fit into the mid-range category, and they tend to be the hardest to spot. You see, your lessers are like wrecking balls. They're pretty obvious. They're the wife beaters, they're the boastful, bragging individuals who might have achieved something, such as your upper lesser, but like to shout about it. I'm the best, look at me go. And they have no sense of modesty. In other instances, they boast and brag, and it's quite apparent that they're deluded. So you might have the guy with the balding pate and the pot belly and half his teeth missing, thinking that he's Mr. Lover man still. And lessers are haphazard, they tend to have poor jobs, or they're not in employment, or they keep getting hired and fired. And they stand out. They're the wrecking ball that cruises through life, pretty much oblivious to what they're doing and rarely sees that what they're doing is wrong. Graters are hugely successful, large fuel matrices, massively charming, Machiavellian. Many people don't become exposed to them because graters tend to operate in the rarefied atmosphere of the ether, moving within governmental, political, business circles. And many people think they're ensnared by a grater, but they're not. That mistake is understandable because it's based upon their perception. The bulk, however, are mid-range, and these are the people that move in and around and are harder to spot because they are very good at fitting in. And they are mislabelled. They're often referred to as the office politician, or someone who's too sensitive, or the nosy neighbour. And whilst I'm not saying that a neighbour who is nosy is necessarily a narcissist, it's likely that they will be. And people don't spot the mid-range narcissists because they are harder to spot because they operate with facades. They actually think that they are good, decent people. And therefore, that often cons people, so they're not spotted. And many of their behaviours are subtle. but over time they become pretty obvious. And that's why, because mid-rangers are the ones that are able to fit in the most, they are the largest category. And more female narcissists are mid-range than men, incidentally. So, there's a number of questions answered for you all. I will be doing some more in due course. Thank you for listening. Keep doing so, and provide me with your comments and questions. Enjoy your Fridays, everybody.